Hi, Pastor Steve here. I want to thank you for listening today, and I want to encourage you because I know that God will truly bless you as you study His Word. So hey, let's get started.
Hey church family, welcome to our midweek devotion series. Today we will be taking a look at Mark chapter 4. Now remember, use these devotions as a reading plan of sorts. If you read one chapter either right before or right after you are watching this devotion, you can keep up with us. It's just 2 chapters a week, and it's not too late to catch up either if you want to stay right with us. So to today's reading, Mark chapter 4. Now Mark chapter 4 is full of some great teachings of Jesus. These teachings happen in what we call parables. And as Pastor Steve often says, parables are earthly stories that have a heavenly meaning. Now, since we just concluded an entire sermon series on the parables, as well as the first 13 or so of these devotions that were on the parables of Jesus, I'm not going to focus on the parables that are mentioned in Mark chapter 4 today. If you would like more information about any of those parables, take a look at the description of this video for a link to our sermon series, or visit the YouTube channel for a look at those 13 episodes that deal with the parables of Jesus. For today, I'm going to focus on a section of chapter 4 that has been one of my favorite stories since I was a kid. This story is labeled in Mark's Gospel as Jesus Calms the Storm. The great thing about this story is that we can read this story here in the book of Mark, and we can also find this story in the other 2 synoptic gospels. Matthew, Mark, and Luke are called synoptic gospels because they give us a synopsis or a summary of the life events that surround Jesus. So if someone ever refers to the synoptic gospels, they're referring to one of those 3 gospels. Now, the book of John is not considered a synoptic gospel because it doesn't provide us this simple summary of Jesus' life. Instead, John focuses on the why behind what Jesus was doing, as well as the relational aspects of Jesus' life. All of them are true, all of them are inspired by God, but we get different details based upon the focus of each writer. Now, back to Mark's Gospel, chapter 4, verse 35. Let's start there and we'll read it together. That day, when evening came, he said to his disciples, "Let us go over to the other side." Leaving the crowd behind, they took him along, just as he was in the boat. There were also other boats with him. A furious squall came up, and the waves broke over the boat, so that it was nearly swamped. Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion. The disciples woke him and said to him, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" He got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Then the wind died down, and it was completely calm. He said to his disciples, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" They were terrified and asked each other, "Who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him." Jesus' power and authority is on display here in this story. First, Jesus is asleep. He's not worried about anything. But the disciples, they wake him up. Not with, "Hey, teacher, help us," but with the accusation of, "Don't you care if we drown?" Jesus gets up and rebukes the waves and the wind and questions the disciples about their faith in him. They were astonished by the power and authority that Jesus had, that even creation, even the wind and the waves, would obey him. A great little study for you to do on your own is to take a look at this story here in Mark's Gospel, as well as go to the other 2 synoptic Gospels. Note the different details you can gather from the other people's perspectives. You can find this story here in Mark chapter 4, as well as in Matthew chapter 8, starting in verse 23, and in Luke chapter 8, starting in verse 22. Here's the takeaway for today. Here's how you can find yourself in God's story. We worship the God of the universe, the God of creation. I mean, think about that for a moment. Think about the amount of power and authority you would need for the wind and the waves to obey you. Friend, God's Son, Jesus has that authority. Jesus has that power. No matter what storm in life you are dealing with, no matter what's going on in the world right now, Jesus has all of the power. Jesus has all of the authority he needs to deal with those situations. In Matthew chapter 28, verse 18, Jesus says this. He says that all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me, that is, to Jesus. So we can rest assured knowing that Jesus is in charge. He knows what's going on, and he can't be fooled by what's going on. This should bring us great hope and great encouragement to turn our eyes upon Jesus, knowing that we can put our trust in him, the one who has all power and all authority on heaven or on earth. Have a blessed day and a great week. Happy studying.
Thanks again for listening today. We'd love to hear from you. If you'd like more information about our church, or if you just want to share what God's been doing in your life, drop us a line. Give us a call. Again, may God bless you.